April 10th, 1912. Southampton. Tonight, I write these words knowing that tomorrow I shall command the greatest vessel ever built by human hands. The RMS Titanic. They call her unsinkable. They call her a floating palace. But I, Captain Edward John Smith, have sailed the Atlantic for 40 years, and the sea has taught me one truth above all others. She keeps her own counsel, and she answers to no man. The weight of this command settles upon my shoulders like a familiar coat. This shall be my final voyage before retirement. Margaret, my beloved wife, waits for me in Southampton with promises of quiet mornings and garden walks. My daughter Helen speaks of grandchildren I have yet to meet. After 4 decades of salt and storm, perhaps it is time to learn the rhythm of land. But tonight I cannot sleep. I stand at my window in the Southwestern Hotel, watching the lights of the harbor dance upon the water. Somewhere out there, Titanic waits. 2,200 souls will trust their lives to my judgment, my experience, my steady hand upon the wheel of fate. I have commanded Olympic, her sister ship, through troubled waters. I have navigated storms that would break lesser men. Yet something whispers in the corners of my mind tonight. Call it superstition. Call it the instinct of an old sailor who has learned to read the moods of the deep. The newspapers overflow with praise. The millionaire's special, they call her, the ship of dreams. John Jacob Astor himself will be aboard, along with Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Straus, and countless others whose names grace the society pages. First-class tickets sold for prices that would feed a working family for years. But I think also of the others. The emigrants in steerage, clutching their few possessions and their infinite hopes. Irish families fleeing poverty. Italians seeking new beginnings. Swedes and Finns and Armenians all believing that America waits with open arms. For them, Titanic is not a luxury. She is a bridge between the old world and the new, between despair and possibility. I carry them all. Margaret asked me before I left for Southampton if I was afraid. I told her what I have told myself for 40 years, fear is a luxury a captain cannot afford. The crew looks to me for certainty, the passengers look to me for safety. I must be the rock upon which their confidence rests. But alone, in the quiet hours before dawn, I can admit what I cannot speak aloud. Every voyage carries risk. Every crossing of the Atlantic is a negotiation with forces beyond our control. We have built Titanic with the finest steel, the most advanced watertight compartments, the most powerful engines ever fitted to a ship. We have done everything human ingenuity can accomplish, and yet the sea remains the sea. April 11th, 1912, at sea. We departed Southampton at noon yesterday, and already Titanic has proven herself magnificent. She moves through the water with a grace that belies her enormous size. The engines hum with steady power, and the passengers have settled into the rhythms of ocean travel. I took my morning walk along the boat deck, nodding to the early risers who braved the April chill. The air carries that particular freshness that only exists at sea, clean and sharp, untouched by the smoke of cities. Seabirds still follow us, though they will turn back soon as we venture further from land. This morning I received a wireless message from my old friend Captain Bertram Hayes of the Olympic. He sends his regards and jokes that I have stolen the finest ship in the White Star Fleet. I smiled reading his words. Bertram and I have shared many a tale over whiskey and port. He knows, as I do, that commanding such a vessel is both honor and burden. The first-class passengers have begun to explore their floating palace. I observed Mr. Astor and his young wife Madeline taking tea in the Palm Court. She is with child, I am told. and they are returning to America to await the birth. There is something touching about their obvious affection, despite the whispers that follow them. Society may judge, but the sea cares nothing for scandal. In the second-class dining saloon, I noticed families gathering for meals, their conversations a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Many have never been to sea before. They marvel at the electric lights, the running water, the sheer impossibility of such comfort aboard a ship. And in steerage, I made my way down to the lower decks this afternoon, as is my custom. A captain should know his entire ship, not merely the gilded portions. I found children playing in the corridors, their laughter echoing off the steel walls. Their parents watched with tired eyes that held both hope and fear. They have left everything behind: homes, families, the graves of their ancestors, all for the promise of America. One woman, Irish by her accent, stopped me as I passed. She clutched a rosary in work-worn hands and asked if the crossing would be smooth. I assured her that Titanic was the safest ship ever built. She smiled, but I saw the doubt that lingered. She has known too much hardship to trust easily in promises. I think of her tonight as I write. I think of all of them. Tonight, I walked the decks alone after dinner. The stars blazed overhead with a brilliance that only the open ocean can provide. No city lights to dim their glory, no smoke to veil their ancient fire. I found myself thinking of all the sailors who have navigated by these same stars, from the Phoenicians to Columbus to the countless unnamed men who have trusted their lives to celestial guidance. We think ourselves so modern, so advanced. We have electric lights and wireless telegraphy and engines that can push 46,000 tons of steel through the water at 22 knots. Yet we still sail beneath the same stars, still cross the same unpredictable sea, still face the same fundamental truth. We are small, and the ocean is vast. I should sleep. Tomorrow will bring its own demands, its own decisions, but the night is too beautiful to abandon, and my thoughts too restless to quiet. So I write instead, setting down words that perhaps no one will ever read. Margaret, if somehow these pages find their way to you, know that I think of you in these quiet hours. Know that every voyage has carried you with me, a compass point of love that always guides me home. Know that I have tried to be worthy of your faith, your patience, your unwavering support through all these years of absence. The sea has been my mistress, but you have been my heart. From the diary of Miss Eleanor Worthington, first-class passenger. April 10th, 1912. Mother would be horrified to know I am keeping a diary. She believes that written words are dangerous things, evidence that can be used against a lady in ways she refuses to specify. But I am 23 years old, and I have decided that some rebellions are worth the risk. We boarded Titanic this morning, and I confess my breath caught in my throat at the sight of her. She is enormous beyond imagining, a floating city of steel and glass and polished wood. Our stateroom, I should say staterooms, for we have a suite, is more luxurious than many hotels I have visited. Electric lights, a private bathroom, windows that look out upon the endless sea. Father has already found the smoking room in the company of men who speak his language of stocks and bonds and market speculation. Mother has claimed a deck chair and begun the serious work of observing who is aboard and calculating their social worth. I am left to my own devices, which suits me perfectly. I explored the ship this afternoon, wandering through corridors that seem to stretch forever. The grand staircase is magnificent, carved oak and wrought iron, crowned by a glass dome that floods the space with natural light. I stood at the top and watched passengers ascend and descend, each one a story I will never know. There is a young man. I should not write of him, but this diary is my secret, and secrets are meant to hold such things. He was standing near the second-class entrance, looking somewhat lost. Dark hair, kind eyes, a suit that was respectable but clearly not tailored on Savile Row. Our eyes met for just a moment before Mother called me away. I do not even know his name. We are sailing to New York because Father has business there, and because Mother believes I need exposure to American society. What she means, of course, is that I need exposure to American fortunes. The English aristocracy is land-rich and cash-poor, and daughters like me are expected to solve this problem through advantageous marriage. I am expected to smile and dance and make pleasant conversation. I am expected to be accomplished but not intellectual, pretty but not vain, agreeable but not boring. I am expected to want what they want for me. But standing on the deck this evening, watching England disappear into the mist, I felt something unexpected. Freedom. For 5 days, I am suspended between worlds belonging to neither. For 5 days, I can be anyone I choose. Perhaps I will find that young man again. Perhaps I will learn his name. From the Journal of Thomas Ryan, third-class passenger, April 10th, 1912. I am writing this by the light of a single electric bulb, sharing a cabin with 5 other men I met only hours ago. 2 are Swedish, 1 is Finnish, and 2 are from County Cork like myself. We communicate through gestures and smiles in the universal language of hope. Titanic. Even the name sounds like a promise. I paid every penny I had saved in 3 years of labor to buy my ticket, $36.25, a fortune for a farm boy from Tipperary, but a small price for a new life. My mother wept when I left. She pressed a medal of St. Christopher into my palm and made me swear to write every week. My father shook my hand and said nothing, but I saw the pride in his eyes. I am the first Ryan to cross the ocean, the first to seek fortune in America. I have a cousin in Boston who works in construction. He writes of wages that seem impossible, $3 a day for honest labor. In Ireland, I was lucky to earn that in a week. In America, a man can build a life with his own 2 hands. The ship is beyond anything I could have imagined. Even here in steerage, we have electric lights and running water. The beds are clean, the food is plentiful. I ate better at dinner tonight than I have eaten in months. Soup and bread and meat and potatoes, as much as I wanted. Some of the other passengers grumble about the accommodations, about being kept separate from the upper classes, but I have slept in worse places. I have known hunger that makes this plenty seem like heaven. I am grateful for every moment aboard this magnificent ship. Tomorrow I will explore. I want to see the engines, if they will let me. I want to understand how such a massive thing can move through the water. Back home, the largest vessel I ever saw was a fishing boat. This is something from a dream. America waits. I can almost see her shining on the horizon. A few more days and everything changes. From the letters of Isidor and Ida Straus, first-class passengers, written by Ida Straus to her daughter, never sent. April 11th, 1912. My dearest Sarah, your father and I are settling into our voyage aboard Titanic, and I must tell you that the ship exceeds every expectation. Our stateroom is lovely, with fresh flowers that are replaced daily and a steward who anticipates our every need. Your father jokes that he could become accustomed to such treatment, though we both know he would grow restless without his work within a week. We have been married for 41 years now, your father and I. 41 years of partnership, of building Macy's from a single store into an empire, of raising you children and watching you flourish. People often ask the secret of a long marriage, and I never know quite what to say. There is no secret, really. There is only choosing, every day, to love the person beside you. I watch your father across the breakfast table, reading his newspaper and muttering about politics, and I see the young man who courted me in New York all those years ago. His hair has gone white, and his step has slowed, but his eyes still hold the same spark of intelligence and determination that first captured my heart. We have weathered storms together, your father and I. The fire that nearly destroyed the store, the financial panics that threatened everything we had built, the loss of your brother, which I still cannot write about without tears. Through it all, we have held to each other. This voyage is a gift we have given ourselves, a chance to rest, to remember, to simply be together without the demands of business and society. We walk the decks arm in arm, pointing out the seabirds and marveling at the endless horizon. We take our meals slowly, savoring each course and each conversation. I find myself thinking about time, about how quickly it passes and how precious each moment becomes as we grow older. Your father is 67 now, and I am 63. We have been blessed with more years than many receive, yet I find myself greedy for more. I want to see your children grow. I want to celebrate more anniversaries. I want to sit beside this man I love and watch the sun set over the ocean, again and again, for as long as fate allows. But I am becoming maudlin, and that is not the purpose of this letter. I wanted only to tell you that we are well, that we are happy, that we think of you and the grandchildren every day. The sea is calm tonight, and the stars are magnificent. Your father has just suggested a walk on deck before bed. I shall close now and take his arm, as I have done 10,000 times before. All my love, always, Mother. From the personal log of Frederick Barrett, leading fireman. April 11th, 1912. They call us the Black Gang, we who work in the belly of the beast. Our world is fire and coal and sweat far below the glittering salons where the wealthy take their ease. We are the heart that pumps life through Titanic's steel veins, and without us she would be nothing but a floating palace going nowhere. I have been a fireman for 12 years, feeding the furnaces of ships that cross the Atlantic. It is brutal work. The heat in the boiler rooms reaches temperatures that would stagger a man unaccustomed to it. We shovel coal until our muscles scream, until our lungs burn, until our eyes sting with sweat and ash. And then we shovel more. Titanic has 29 boilers, each one a hungry mouth that must be constantly fed. We work 4-hour shifts, and by the end of each one I am so exhausted I can barely climb the ladders to the crew quarters. But there is pride in this work. Pride in knowing that every shovelful of coal translates to power, to speed, to the miracle of movement that carries 2,000 souls across the ocean. The engine room is a cathedral of machinery. The reciprocating engines tower above us, their massive pistons driving the propellers with a rhythm that becomes the heartbeat of the ship. Chief Engineer Bell walks among us like a priest tending his flock, checking gauges and listening to the symphony of metal and steam. I spoke with him today during a brief rest. He is a quiet man, serious, with the careful attention of someone who understands that lives depend on his vigilance. He told me that Titanic's engines are the most powerful ever fitted to a ship, 30,000 horsepower driving us toward New York at speeds that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. She's a fine ship, he said, wiping grease from his hands. Treat her well, and she'll carry us safe. I believed him. I still believe him. The passengers above have no idea what happens down here. They see the smooth glide of the ship through the water, feel the gentle vibration of the engines, and think it all happens by magic. They do not see the men who make it possible, the black-faced firemen who sacrifice their health and sometimes their lives to keep the furnaces burning. I do not resent them. Each man has his place in the world, and this is mine. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between shifts, I wonder what it would be like to walk those upper decks, to dine in those grand saloons, to look out at the sea from a position of comfort rather than labor. My wife Mary waits for me in Southampton. She is expecting our third child, and I have promised her that this will be my last long voyage. After Titanic, I will find work closer to home, something that does not take me away for weeks at a time. She smiled when I made this promise, but I saw the doubt in her eyes. She has heard such promises before. This time I mean it. This time I will keep my word. From the observations of Thomas Andrews, ship's designer, April 12, 1912. I walk through Titanic's corridors with the eyes of a father watching his child take first steps. Every detail, every fitting, every line of her construction, I know them all, for I have lived with this ship in my mind for 3 years before she became real. She is not perfect. No ship is perfect, no matter what the newspapers claim. I carry a notebook with me always, recording the small improvements that could be made. The writing desks in the staterooms need additional lighting. The coat hooks in the first-class corridors are too few. The color of the pebble dashing on the private promenade decks is too dark. These are minor things, details that most passengers will never notice. But I notice. I cannot help but notice. Titanic is my life's work, the culmination of everything I have learned in 20 years of shipbuilding. She must be as close to perfect as human hands can achieve. I think often of my uncle, Lord Peary, who gave me my start at Harland and Wolff. He saw something in me, some spark of ability that I myself did not recognize. He taught me that shipbuilding is not merely engineering, it is art, it is vision. It is the audacious belief that we can reshape the world to serve human needs. Titanic embodies that belief. She is 882 feet of human ambition, 46,000 tons of steel and dreams. She carries the hopes of emigrants seeking new lives, the fortunes of millionaires conducting business across oceans, the simple desires of families traveling to visit loved ones. She is a bridge between continents, a defiance of the distances that once separated us. And yet, I lie awake some nights running calculations in my mind. The watertight compartments are designed to contain flooding, to keep the ship afloat even if the worst should happen. But the worst is a concept that shifts and changes. We plan for what we can imagine, but the sea has an imagination of its own. I have recommended more lifeboats. The current complement of 20 is sufficient to meet Board of Trade regulations, but regulations are written by men who have never stood on a sinking deck. I wanted 48 boats, enough for everyone aboard. I was overruled. The davits are designed to handle more boats, but the deck space was deemed too valuable, the appearance too cluttered. I do not like this compromise. But I am an employee, not an owner, and some battles cannot be won. Captain Smith is a good man, experienced and cautious. I trust his judgment on the bridge. The officers are competent, the crew well trained. We have done everything reasonable to ensure safe passage. Still, I find myself checking the watertight doors more often than necessary, confirming that the pumps are functioning properly, reviewing the procedures for emergency situations. Call it the anxiety of a perfectionist, the worry of a man who knows too well how many things can go wrong. Titanic will reach New York safely. I am confident of this. And when she does, I will return to Belfast and begin work on her sister, Britannic. The lessons learned from this voyage will make the next ship even better. That is the nature of progress. We build, we learn, we improve. Each ship carries us closer to mastery of the sea, but we never quite arrive. From the diary of Miss Eleanor Worthington, April 12, 1912. His name is William Hartley from Manchester. He is traveling second class to take a position as a clerk in a New York shipping firm. He has kind eyes and a gentle laugh, and absolutely no idea that I have been thinking about him since the moment our eyes met. I engineered our second meeting with a shamelessness that would mortify Mother. I learned from a steward that second-class passengers take their exercise on the aft deck, and I found reasons to walk in that direction 3 times today. On the third attempt, I succeeded. He was standing at the rail watching the wake of the ship spread behind us like a white road leading back to everything we have left behind. I stood nearby, pretending to be fascinated by the same view. After several minutes of mutual pretense, he spoke. "It's remarkable, isn't it? How quickly the sea erases our passage." I agreed that it was remarkable. We spoke of the ship, of the voyage, of the weather. Safe topics, proper topics, the kind of conversation that reveals nothing and everything at once. His accent marked him as educated but not wealthy, ambitious but not presumptuous. He asked about my journey, and I told him only that my family was traveling to New York on business. I did not mention Father's fortune or Mother's social aspirations. I did not mention the titled suitors who have been paraded before me like horses at auction. For those few minutes, I was simply Eleanor, a young woman talking to a young man with nothing between us but words and possibility. We were interrupted, of course. A steward appeared to remind me with exquisite politeness that first-class passengers were expected in the lounge for afternoon tea. The invisible walls of class reasserted themselves, and William stepped back with a small bow that broke my heart a little. "Perhaps we shall meet again," he said. "Perhaps," I replied, knowing that I would make certain of it. From the Journal of Thomas Ryan, April 12, 1912. I have met a girl. Her name is Bridget, and she is from Galway, and she has red hair that catches the light like fire and a laugh that makes me forget I am poor and far from home. We met in the general room where the steerage passengers gather to pass the time. Someone had brought a fiddle and someone else had a tin whistle, and before long there was music and dancing and more joy than I have known in months. Bridget was dancing with her younger brother, a boy of perhaps 12 who has more energy than sense, and when the music paused, she collapsed into the chair beside mine, breathless and smiling. "You're not dancing," she observed. "I'm not much of a dancer," I admitted. "Then you haven't had the right partner." She pulled me to my feet before I could protest, and suddenly I was dancing badly while she laughed and guided me through steps I had never learned. The other passengers cheered and clapped, and for those few minutes I forgot everything: the uncertainty of the future, the ache of leaving home, the fear that America might not want me after all. We talked afterward, sharing the stories of our lives. She is traveling with her mother and brother to join her father, who has been working in New York for 2 years. He sends money home when he can, but it is never enough. And finally they saved enough to make the crossing themselves. He writes that America is hard, she said, but that it is fair. A man who works can build a life. A woman too, if she is willing. I told her about my cousin in Boston, about my dreams of learning a trade, of someday owning my own business. She listened with serious eyes, and when I finished, she nodded. "You'll do it," she said. "I can tell. You have the look of a man who doesn't give up. No one has ever said such a thing to me before. No one has ever looked at me and seen possibility instead of limitation." I wanted to kiss her then, but I am not so bold, and there were too many people watching. Instead, I asked if I might see her again tomorrow. She smiled and said she would like that very much. I am writing this in my bunk, surrounded by the snores of my cabin mates, and I cannot stop smiling. The future feels bright tonight, brighter than it has ever felt before. From the letters of Benjamin Guggenheim to his mistress, Madame Aubar. Never sent. April 12, 1912. My dearest Ninette, you sleep in the cabin next door, and yet I find myself writing to you as though oceans separated us. Perhaps it is the strangeness of this voyage, the suspension between worlds that makes me reflective. Perhaps it is simply that I love you, and love seeks expression even when words are unnecessary. We should not be here together. My wife waits in New York along with my daughters and the life I have built over decades of work and compromise. Society would condemn us if they knew the truth of our relationship. And yet, here we are, crossing the Atlantic side by side, stealing what happiness we can from a world that offers so little. I am not a good man, Ninette. I have made choices that have hurt people I care about, pursued pleasures that propriety forbids, lived according to my desires rather than my duties. But when I am with you, I feel something I have rarely felt in my 54 years. I feel alive. You make me laugh. You challenge my assumptions. You see through the masks I wear for business and society and find something worth loving underneath. With you, I am not Benjamin Guggenheim, mining magnate and millionaire. I am simply Ben, a man who has found unexpected joy in the autumn of his life. This ship is magnificent, a testament to human ambition and ingenuity. I have dined with captains of industry, discussed politics with men who shape nations, observed the endless dance of wealth and status that defines our class. And through it all, I have thought only of returning to you, of closing the door on the world and finding peace in your presence. Tomorrow we shall walk the decks together, scandalizing the gossips and ignoring their whispers. Let them talk. Let them judge. We have so little time, you and I refuse to waste it on the opinions of strangers. The sea is calm tonight, and the stars are extraordinary. I wish you were awake to see them with me. But you need your rest, and I need these quiet hours to gather my thoughts. I love you, Ninette. Whatever happens, whatever the future holds, know that you have given me more happiness than I deserve. Yours always, Ben. From the Diary of Captain Edward Smith, April 13th, 1912. The temperature continues to drop. We have received multiple ice warnings throughout the day, from the Baltic, from the America, from other ships traversing these waters. I have adjusted our course slightly southward, though we remain on the standard shipping lane. Bruce Ismay approached me again today regarding our speed. He is eager to arrive in New York on Tuesday evening rather than Wednesday morning, believing the publicity value would be considerable. I listened to his arguments with the patience expected of a captain dealing with his employer's chairman. I did not tell him that I have no intention of pushing Titanic beyond what prudence allows. I did not tell him that ice warnings concern me more than headlines. I did not tell him that 40 years of experience have taught me to respect the sea's capacity for surprise. Instead, I assured him that we would make the best time conditions permitted. He seemed satisfied with this diplomatic non-answer and returned to his stateroom to compose telegrams announcing our impending early arrival. The lookouts have been instructed to maintain sharp vigilance for ice. The night will be clear, according to our observations. No moon, but excellent visibility. In some ways, this is ideal for spotting bergs, as they will stand out against the dark water. In other ways, it concerns me. A moonless night can play tricks on even experienced eyes. I have sailed these waters many times. I have seen icebergs that towered like cathedrals and growlers that lurked just beneath the surface. I have navigated through field ice that stretched to the horizon and dodged bergs that appeared from nowhere in the fog. The North Atlantic in April is a gauntlet that must be run with care. Thomas Andrews joined me for dinner this evening. We spoke of the ship, of the voyage, of the small improvements he continues to note in his ever-present notebook. He is a good man, Andrews, dedicated, thoughtful, genuinely concerned with the welfare of everyone aboard. He mentioned, almost in passing, that he wished we carried more lifeboats. I agreed with him, though I did not say so aloud. The regulations are what they are, and Titanic exceeds them. But regulations are written by men who sit in offices, not by men who have watched ships go down. I have never lost a ship. In 40 years of command, I have brought every vessel safely to port. This record is my pride and my burden. Each voyage, I carry the weight of all those who trust me with their lives. Each voyage, I face the possibility that this will be the one where luck runs out. But I am being morbid, and that serves no purpose. Titanic is the finest ship ever built, crewed by experienced officers and equipped with every modern safety device. We will reach New York without incident, and I will retire to my garden and my grandchildren and the quiet life I have earned. Margaret waits for me. That thought alone is enough to carry me through any challenge. From the diary of Miss Eleanor Worthington. April 13th, 1912. I have done something terribly improper. I have fallen in love. William and I met again today, this time by genuine accident rather than careful design. I was walking on the boat deck, trying to escape Mother's endless commentary on eligible bachelors, when I quite literally collided with him at a corner. We both apologized profusely. We both laughed at our clumsiness. And then, somehow, we were walking together, talking as though we had known each other for years rather than days. He told me about his family, his father a factory foreman, his mother a seamstress, his younger sister studying to be a teacher. He told me about his dreams of advancement, of proving that a man's worth is not determined by the circumstances of his birth. He told me about the books he loves, the ideas that excite him, the future he imagines for himself in America. I told him everything, things I have never told anyone. My frustration with the expectations placed upon me, my secret wish to do something meaningful with my life, something beyond marriage and motherhood and the endless social rounds, my fear that I will wake up one day, old and full of regret, having never truly lived. He listened. He did not judge or dismiss or try to solve my problems with platitudes. He simply listened, and when I finished, he took my hand. "You are remarkable," he said. "Anyone who cannot see that is a fool." I should have pulled away. I should have remembered my position, my family, the impossibility of any future between us. Instead, I held his hand tighter and wished the moment would never end. We parted when the dinner bell rang, returning to our separate worlds. But something has changed. Something has shifted in my heart that cannot be unshifted. Mother noticed my distraction at dinner and asked if I was feeling well. I told her I was simply tired from the sea air. She accepted this explanation and returned to her analysis of Mrs. Astor's jewelry. I am not tired. I am more awake than I have ever been. From the Journal of Thomas Ryan. April 13th, 1912. Bridget and I walked the deck today, arm in arm like a proper couple. Her mother watched us from a distance, not disapproving exactly, but watchful. I understand. A daughter is precious, and I am a stranger. We talked about America, about what we hope to find there. She wants to work, to contribute to her family's income, to prove that she is more than just a girl waiting for marriage. I admire her spirit. In Ireland, such ambition in a woman would be considered unseemly. But America, they say, is different. My father writes that women work in the factories, she told me. They earn their own money, make their own choices. It is not easy, but it is possible. And what would you choose? I asked. She thought for a moment, her red hair whipping in the wind. I would choose to be free, she said finally. free to decide my own future, free to love whom I wish, free to become whoever I am meant to be. I wanted to tell her that I hoped her future might include me, but it is too soon for such declarations, and I am too poor to make promises I cannot keep. Instead, I squeezed her hand and said nothing. We watched the sun set together, the sky turning shades of orange and pink that seemed impossible. The sea stretched endlessly in every direction, and for a moment, I felt the full weight of our journey. How far we have come, how far we have yet to go, how small we are against the vastness of the world. "Are you afraid?" Bridget asked. "Of what?" "Of America. Of starting over. Of everything being different." I considered the question carefully. "Yes," I admitted, "but I am more afraid of staying the same, of never knowing what I might become." She nodded, understanding perfectly. "We are alike, Bridget and I. We are both running towards something, even if we cannot yet see what it is. Tomorrow we will reach the ice fields, according to the crew. The temperature has dropped sharply, and there is talk of bergs in our path. But I am not worried. This ship is unsinkable, they say, and even if it were not, I think I would still feel safe. Hope is a powerful thing. It makes us believe we are invincible." From the diary of Captain Edward Smith, April 14th, 1912. Morning. A beautiful day, clear and cold. The sea is calm, almost glassy, what sailors call a flat calm. This is unusual for the North Atlantic and would be welcome under other circumstances. But flat calm makes ice harder to spot. Without waves breaking against the bergs, they do not stand out as clearly against the dark water. We have received more ice warnings. The Mesaba reports heavy pack ice and numerous bergs directly in our path. I have discussed the situation with my officers, and we have agreed to maintain our current course and speed while doubling the lookout watch. Some might question this decision. Some might argue that we should slow down, alter course more dramatically, proceed with greater caution. But I have crossed the Atlantic hundreds of times. I have navigated through ice fields that would terrify a lesser captain. I know this ship, I know these waters, and I know my own judgment. We will be through the ice region by midnight. By morning we will be in warmer waters, and this concern will be behind us. I attended divine services this morning, as is customary on Sunday. The first-class passengers gathered in the dining saloon, and I read from the White Star Line's prayer book. The familiar words brought comfort, as they always do. "O eternal Lord God, who alone spreadest out the heavens and rulest the raging of the sea, be pleased to receive into thy almighty and most gracious protection the persons of us, thy servants, and the ship in which we serve. I have spoken these words on countless voyages. They have become ritual, almost automatic. But today, for reasons I cannot explain, they felt different, heavier, more urgent. I am being foolish. The sea makes philosophers of us all, and not always wise ones." April 14th, 1912. Afternoon. The temperature continues to fall. I have ordered the heating increased throughout the ship and advised passengers to dress warmly if they venture on deck. The cold is bitter now, the kind that seeps through clothing and settles in the bones. I took my afternoon walk along the boat deck, nodding to passengers who braved the chill. The Astors were there, wrapped in furs, admiring the clarity of the air. Mrs. Astor commented on how she could see forever in every direction. I agreed that visibility was exceptional. What I did not say was that exceptional visibility cuts both ways. We can see far, yes, but so can the ice see us coming. The wireless operators have been busy all day with passenger messages. I have asked them to prioritize any ice warnings that come through, but the traffic is heavy. The wealthy passengers seemed determined to conduct their business even in the middle of the ocean, sending and receiving telegrams at a furious pace. At 1:42 p.m., we received a message from the Baltic reporting large quantities of field ice in our vicinity. I showed this to Bruce Ismay, who glanced at it briefly and tucked it into his pocket. I do not know why he kept it, but I did not ask. There are limits to what a captain can demand of his employer's chairman. At 1:45 p.m., the America reported passing 2 large icebergs. At 7:30 p.m., the Californian warned of 3 large bergs. At 9:40 p.m., the Mesaba sent a detailed warning of heavy pack ice and numerous bergs directly ahead. I have acknowledged these warnings. I have taken them seriously. But I have not reduced speed. Why? Because we are so close to our destination. Because the night is clear and the lookouts are alert. Because Titanic is designed to withstand collision, to stay afloat even if the worst should happen. Because I have done this 100 times before, and caution has always been rewarded with safe passage. Because I am tired, and I want to go home. April 14th, 1912, evening, dinner in the first-class dining saloon was magnificent, as always. The passengers were in high spirits, anticipating our arrival in New York. There was talk of the parties that would be held, the business that would be conducted, the new lives that would begin. I sat at the captain's table, making conversation with the Wideners and the Thayers, discussing politics and business and the state of the world. They are good people, these wealthy passengers. Privileged, yes, but not unkind. They have worked hard for their fortunes, most of them, and they use their wealth to support causes they believe in. Mrs. Thayer asked about my retirement plans. I told her about Margaret, about our home in Southampton, about the garden I intend to cultivate. She smiled and said it sounded lovely. "You have earned your rest, Captain," she said. "After a lifetime of service, you deserve peace." I thanked her for her kind words. I did not tell her that peace feels very far away tonight. After dinner, I made my rounds of the bridge. The night was extraordinarily clear, the stars blazing with an intensity that seemed almost aggressive. There was no moon, which concerned me, but the visibility was excellent. First Officer Murdoch had the watch, and I trusted him completely. "If it becomes at all doubtful, let me know at once," I told him. "I shall be just inside." He assured me that he would. I retired to my cabin, but I did not undress. Something kept me alert, some instinct honed by 40 years at sea. I sat in my chair, fully clothed, waiting for I knew not what. The clock on my wall ticked steadily. 10:000 p.m., 10:30 p.m., 11:000 p.m., 11:30 p.m. The ship moved smoothly through the water, her engines humming their steady rhythm. All was well, all was calm. And then, at 11:40 p.m., everything changed. From the final entries of Captain Edward Smith, April 14th, 1912, 11:40 p.m. The impact was subtle at first, a slight shudder, a grinding sensation that lasted perhaps 10 seconds. I was on my feet immediately, moving toward the bridge before my mind had fully registered what had happened. "What have we struck?" I demanded as I burst onto the bridge. "An iceberg, sir," Murdoch replied, his face pale in the dim light. I hard starboarded and reversed the engines, but she was too close. I could not avoid her. I looked out into the darkness. The berg was already behind us, a massive shadow against the stars, disappearing into the night as though it had never existed. But I knew in my bones, that it had left its mark. "Close the watertight doors," I ordered. "Already done, sir." I nodded. Murdoch was a good officer. He had done everything right, and yet I sent for Thomas Andrews. If anyone could assess the damage, It was the man who had designed this ship. While I waited, I received reports from below. Water was entering the forward compartments. The mailroom was flooding. The squash court was awash. Andrews arrived within minutes, his face grave. Together, we descended into the bowels of the ship, and what we found there stopped my heart. The iceberg had opened Titanic's hull along nearly 300 feet of her starboard side. Not a gash, as one might expect, but a series of punctures and separations where the rivets had popped and the plates had buckled. Water was pouring in at a rate that no pumps could match. Andrews did the calculations in his head, his engineer's mind working with terrible precision. "The first 5 compartments are flooding," he said quietly. "She can float with 4 compromised, not 5. "How long?" I asked. He met my eyes, and I saw the answer before he spoke it. "An hour. Perhaps 2. No more." I returned to the bridge and gave the orders that no captain ever wants to give. Uncover the lifeboats, muster the passengers, prepare to abandon ship. The words felt unreal as I spoke them. Titanic, unsinkable Titanic, was dying beneath my feet. 2,200 souls depended on my decisions in the next hours, and there were not enough lifeboats for half of them. I had known this. I had always known this. But knowing and facing are different things. From the diary of Miss Eleanor Worthington, April 14th, 1912, 11:45 p.m. I was in my stateroom preparing for bed when I felt the ship shudder. It was not violent, more like a long, drawn-out vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I paused, hairbrush in hand, and listened. The engines had stopped. In 4 days of travel, I had grown so accustomed to their constant hum that the silence was almost painful. I went to my porthole and looked out, but I could see nothing except the dark water and the brilliant stars. Mother appeared at my door, wrapped in her dressing gown. "What was that?" she demanded. "I don't know," I admitted. Father emerged from his cabin, already pulling on his coat. "I'll go and see," he said. "Stay here until I return." We waited. Minutes passed, each one longer than the last. I could hear voices in the corridor, other passengers asking the same questions we were asking. What happened? Are we in danger? Should we be worried? Father returned, his face carefully neutral. "They say we've struck ice," he reported. "The captain has ordered everyone to put on life belts and report to the boat deck. It's probably just a precaution, but we should do as we're told." I dressed quickly, my fingers clumsy with the unfamiliar life belt. Mother complained that the cork was uncomfortable, that she looked ridiculous, that this was surely an overreaction. Father said nothing, but I saw the fear in his eyes. We made our way to the boat deck, joining a stream of passengers who seemed more annoyed than frightened. The night was bitterly cold, and many had not dressed warmly enough. Stewards moved among us, assuring everyone that this was merely a precaution, that we would be back in our cabins within the hour. I looked for William. In the chaos and confusion, I could not find him. Second-class passengers were being directed to different boats, different parts of the deck. The invisible walls of class, which had seemed so arbitrary during the voyage, now became barriers of life and death. "William," I called into the crowd. "William Hartley." But my voice was lost in the noise, and he did not appear. From the Journal of Thomas Ryan, April 14th, 1912, 11:50 p.m. We felt nothing in steerage. The impact was so far forward, so far above us, that it barely registered. I was playing cards with my cabin mates when someone burst in shouting that we had hit an iceberg. At first, we laughed. An iceberg? On the unsinkable Titanic? Surely it was a joke, or at worst a minor incident that the crew would handle. We returned to our game, dismissing the interruption. But then the water came. It seeped under the door first, a thin trickle that we noticed only when it reached our feet. Within minutes, it was ankle deep and rising. We grabbed what we could. I took only my mother's St. Christopher medal and fled into the corridor. Chaos. Pure chaos. Families were screaming, children were crying, and no one seemed to know where to go. The crew members we encountered spoke only English, and many of the steerage passengers spoke only their native tongues. Instructions were shouted and misunderstood. Doors that should have been open were locked. Stairways that should have led up led only to dead ends. I thought of Bridget. Where was she? Was she safe? I pushed through the crowd, calling her name, but the noise was overwhelming. People were pushing, shoving, fighting to reach the upper decks. The water was rising faster now, and panic had taken hold. I found her near the aft staircase, clutching her brother's hand, her mother close behind. Her face was pale, but her eyes were determined. "Thomas!" she cried when she saw me. "Thank God!" I took her other hand. "Stay with me," I said. "We'll get out together." We fought our way upward, against the tide of water and the crush of bodies. The ship was tilting now, the bow sinking lower with each passing minute. Somewhere above us I could hear the band playing, a waltz, of all things, as though this were just another evening of entertainment. We reached the boat deck to find chaos of a different kind. Lifeboats were being lowered, some half empty, while crowds of people waited for their turn. Officers were shouting orders, trying to maintain some semblance of control. Women and children were being loaded first, but there was confusion about who qualified, about which boats were for which class, about whether husbands could accompany wives. I saw a boat being lowered with empty seats, while hundreds of people stood on the deck above. I did not understand. I still do not understand. "Get in the boat," I told Bridget. "Take your mother and brother and get in." "What about you?" she asked, her eyes wide with fear. "I'll find another boat. I'll meet you in New York. I promise." It was a lie. I knew it was a lie even as I spoke it. But I could not let her stay, could not let her die because of me. I pushed her toward the boat, and a sailor helped her climb in. The last thing I saw was her face, pale and terrified as the boat descended toward the black water below. From the final observations of Thomas Andrews, April 15th, 1912, 12:30 a.m. I have done what I can. I have helped passengers find their life belts, directed them to the boat deck, answered their questions with what calm I could muster. But there is nothing more I can do to save this ship. She is dying, and I must watch. I designed her. I know every rivet, every plate, every compartment. I know exactly how she will sink. Bow first, to stern rising as the forward sections flood, and until the stress becomes too great and she breaks apart. I have run the calculations 100 times in my mind, and they always end the same way. 2 hours, perhaps less now. And then Titanic will be gone, taking with her everyone who could not find a place in the boats. I think of the compromises we made, the lifeboats we did not install, the watertight compartments that did not extend high enough, the decisions that seemed reasonable at the time but now reveal themselves as fatal flaws. I think of all the ways this could have been prevented, all the warnings we ignored, all the chances we did not take. A woman approached me earlier, asking if the ship was truly sinking. I could not lie to her. "Yes, madam," I said. "I'm afraid she is She thanked me for my honesty and walked away to find her husband. I watched her go, wondering if she would find a place in a boat, wondering if I had just delivered a death sentence with my truthful words. I will not try to save myself. There are not enough boats, and I am responsible for that. The least I can do is give my place to someone who might otherwise die because of my failures. I have written a note to my wife, Helen. I have told her that I love her, that I am sorry, that she should not blame herself for anything. I have asked her to tell our daughter that her father tried to do his best, even when his best was not enough. The note is in my pocket. Perhaps someone will find it. Perhaps it will reach her. Perhaps she will understand. I'm standing now in the first-class smoking room looking at the painting above the fireplace. It depicts a harbor scene, ships at anchor, the promise of safe arrival. I have looked at this painting many times during the voyage, admiring its craftsmanship, its peaceful composition. Now it seems like a cruel joke. There will be no safe arrival for Titanic. There will be only the cold and the dark and the endless sea. The water is rising. I can hear it in the corridors below. A rushing sound that grows louder with each passing minute. Soon it will reach this room. Soon it will reach me. I am not afraid. I am only sorry. Sorry for the lives that will be lost. Sorry for the families that will be broken. Sorry for the dreams that will sink with this ship into the depths of the Atlantic. Forgive me. From the letters of Isidor and Ida Straus, their final moments as witnessed by survivors, they stood together on the boat deck arm in arm, as they had stood for 41 years of marriage. A lifeboat waited, and the officer in charge urged Ida to climb aboard. "Please, Mrs. Straus," he said, "there is room for you." She looked at the boat, then at her husband. Isidor was 67 years old, and the rule was clear: women and children first. There would be no place for him in the boats. "I will not leave my husband," she said quietly. "We have lived together for many years. Where he goes, I go." Isidor tried to convince her. He begged her to save herself, to think of their children, their grandchildren, the life that waited for her in New York. She would not be moved. "I will not be separated from you," she said. "Not now. Not ever." They gave their places in the boat to their maid, Ellen Bird, pressing their fur coat into her hands. "Take this," Ida said. "You will need it more than I." And then they walked away from the boats, away from safety, away from life. They found deck chairs near the entrance to the grand staircase and sat down together, holding hands, watching the chaos unfold around them. Witnesses would later report seeing them there, calm and composed, as the ship tilted ever more steeply. They did not cry, they did not panic, they simply sat together. Two people who had chosen love over survival, partnership over self-preservation. When the water finally reached them, they were still holding hands. From the final entry of Benjamin Guggenheim, April 15, 1912, 1:30 a.m. "I have changed into my evening clothes. If I am to die tonight, I will die as a gentleman. Ninette is safe. I saw her into a lifeboat myself, pressing money into the hands of the sailors and begging them to take care of her. She wept and reached for me, but I stepped back. There was no room for me, and I would not take a place that might save a woman or child. Tell my wife," I said to a survivor who promised to carry my message, "that I played the game out straight and to the end. No woman shall be left aboard this ship because Ben Guggenheim was a coward. I have not been a good man. I have made choices that hurt people I loved, pursued pleasures that propriety forbade, lived according to my desires rather than my duties. But tonight, in these final hours, I have tried to be better. I have helped women and children into boats. I have calmed frightened passengers with words of reassurance. I have done what little I could to bring order to chaos. It is not enough to redeem a lifetime of selfishness, but it is something. My valet, Victor Giglio, stands beside me. He too is dressed in his finest clothes. We have opened a bottle of brandy and are drinking it slowly, savoring each sip. If these are to be our last moments, we will face them with dignity. The band is still playing. I can hear them from here, their music floating over the screams and the chaos. They are brave men, those musicians. They know they will not survive, yet they play on, offering what comfort they can to the dying. I think of my daughters, of the life I will not see them live. I think of my wife, who deserved better than I gave her. I think of Ninette, who gave me joy when I had forgotten what joy felt like. I think of all the things I meant to do and never did, all the words I meant to say and never said, all the love I meant to give and never gave. The water is very close now. I can feel the deck tilting beneath my feet, can hear the groaning of metal as the ship tears herself apart. Soon it will be over. I am not afraid. I am only sad. Sad for the waste of it all, the senseless tragedy of so many lives cut short. Sad for the world that will wake tomorrow to news of this disaster. Sad for everyone who loved someone aboard this ship and will never see them again. Goodbye, Ninette. Goodbye, my darlings. Goodbye, world. The sea is calling and I must answer. From the final log of Captain Edward Smith, April 15th, 1912, 2 a.m. The bow is underwater now. The stern rises higher with each passing minute, lifting the propellers clear of the sea. The lights still burn, a miracle of engineering that seems almost cruel under the circumstances. They illuminate the horror, making it impossible to look away. I have done everything I can. I have ordered the lifeboats away, watched them descend into the darkness carrying their precious cargo of survivors. I have sent distress signals into the night, hoping that some ship, any ship, might hear and come to our aid. I have tried to maintain order, to prevent panic, to give my passengers and crew the best chance of survival. It was not enough. It will never be enough. The Carpathia is coming. She received our distress call and is racing toward us at full speed. But she is 58 miles away and we have perhaps 20 minutes left. She will arrive too late to save the ship. I can only pray she arrives in time to save the people in the boats. I think of Margaret. I think of our home in Southampton, the garden I will never tend, the grandchildren I will never hold. I think of all the quiet mornings I promised her, all the peaceful years we planned to share. I think of her face when she learns what has happened, the grief that will consume her, the questions she will ask that have no answers. I am sorry, my love. I am so sorry. I think of the passengers who trusted me with their lives, the wealthy and the poor, the famous and the anonymous, the hopeful emigrants and the returning Americans. They boarded this ship believing they were safe, believing that I would deliver them to their destinations, believing in the promise of the unsinkable Titanic. I failed them. I failed them all. The bridge is flooding now. Water pours through the windows, cold beyond imagining, dark as the grave. I can feel it rising around my legs, my waist, my chest. Soon it will close over my head, and I will join my ship in her final descent. I do not struggle. I do not try to escape. A captain goes down with his ship. It is the oldest law of the sea, and I will honor it. The lights flicker. The band has stopped playing. Somewhere in the darkness, I can hear screaming, the terrible sound of 1,500 people realizing that there is no hope left, that the sea is coming for them and there is nothing anyone can do. I close my eyes. I think of Margaret. I think of the sea that has been my life and will now be my death. I think of all the voyages I have made, all the storms I have weathered, all the passengers I have carried safely home. This was to be my last voyage. In that, at least, I was not wrong. Goodbye, my love. Goodbye, world. Goodbye. From the perspective of the sea. April 15th, 1912, 2:20 a.m. She breaks. The great ship, the unsinkable ship, the ship of dreams. She breaks in two, her back snapping under the impossible strain of her own weight. The stern rises vertical, a tower of steel and light against the star-filled sky, and hangs there for a long moment, as though reluctant to follow the bow into the depths. And then she slides beneath the waves, taking with her 1,500 souls who could not find a place in the boats. They cry out as they fall, as the cold water claims them, as the darkness swallows them whole. Their voices echo across the still Atlantic, a chorus of despair that will haunt the survivors for the rest of their lives. The sea does not care. The sea has never cared. She has swallowed ships since the first humans dared to venture upon her surface, and she will swallow ships long after the last human is gone. She is patient and eternal, beautiful and terrible, the mother of all life and the grave of countless dreams. Titanic sinks 2 miles to the ocean floor, coming to rest in the eternal darkness where no light has ever penetrated. She will lie there for decades, for centuries, slowly dissolving into rust and memory. The grand staircase will collapse, the chandeliers will fall, the letters and diaries and photographs will decay into nothing. But the stories will survive. The stories always survive. Above, in the lifeboats, the survivors huddle together for warmth. They listen to the screaming fade, listen to the silence that follows, listen to the gentle lapping of waves against wood. They are alive, but they do not feel alive. They feel hollow, emptied of everything except shock and grief. The stars blaze overhead, indifferent to human tragedy. The sea stretches endlessly in every direction, black and cold and utterly without mercy. And somewhere in the distance, the Carpathia races toward them, carrying the hope of rescue, the promise of survival, the beginning of a new chapter in a story that will never truly end. From the diary of Miss Eleanor Worthington, April 15th, 1912, dawn. I am alive. I do not know how to feel about this. We were picked up by the Carpathia just after dawn. I remember very little of the hours in the lifeboat, only the cold, the darkness, the sound of crying that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Mother sat beside me, silent for once, her face a mask of shock. Father was not with us. He had stayed behind to help with the boats, promising to find another way off the ship. He did not find another way. I keep thinking of the moment we parted. He kissed my forehead, as he had done when I was a child, and told me to take care of Mother. "I'll see you in New York," he said. "Don't worry about me." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. And now he is gone, somewhere at the bottom of the Atlantic, and I will never see him again. I have searched the Carpathia for William. I have asked everyone I can find, described him to survivors and crew members, checked every list of rescued passengers. No one has seen him. No one knows his name. He was in second class. The second-class passengers had fewer boats, less time, less chance. The mathematics of survival were not in his favor. I tell myself that he might have made it, that he might be on another boat, might have been picked up by another ship, might be waiting for me in New York with that gentle smile and those kind eyes. I tell myself that hope is not foolish, that miracles happen, that love can survive even this. But I know, in my heart, I know. I am not the same person who boarded Titanic 5 days ago. That Eleanor, the one who worried about social expectations and proper behavior in the opinions of strangers. She died with the ship. The Eleanor who remains is someone new, someone forged in tragedy, someone who understands that life is precious and brief and not to be wasted on things that do not matter. I will not marry for money or status. I will not live according to other people's expectations. I will find something meaningful to do with my life, something that honors the memory of everyone who died that night. I will live for them because they cannot live for themselves. William believed I was remarkable. He saw something in me that I had never seen in myself. I will spend the rest of my life trying to become the person he believed I could be. Mother sits beside me now, staring at nothing. She has not spoken since we learned that Father did not survive. I do not know how to comfort her. I do not know how to comfort myself. But we are alive, and as long as we are alive, there is the possibility of healing, of growth, of finding meaning in the midst of meaninglessness. The Carpathia carries us toward New York, toward a future I never imagined, toward a life that will be forever marked by this night. I will not forget. I will never forget. From the Journal of Thomas Ryan. April 15th, 1912. Aboard the Carpathia. I am alive. I should not be alive, but I am. When the ship went down, I was still on the deck. I had given my place in the boats to others, women, children, anyone who seemed more deserving than a poor Irish farm boy with nothing to offer the world. I had made my peace with death, had said my prayers, had thought of my mother and father and the life I would never live. And then the water came. It was cold beyond anything I had ever experienced. Cold that stopped your breath. Cold that froze your thoughts. Cold that made death seem like a mercy. I went under, swallowed by the black Atlantic, certain that I would never surface again. But I did surface. I do not know how. I found a piece of wreckage, a door, I think, or part of a deck chair, and I clung to it with strength I did not know I possessed. Around me, people were dying. I could hear them crying out, could see them struggling, could do nothing to help them. I floated for hours. The cold numbed my body, my mind, my soul. I stopped feeling anything except the desperate need to hold on, to survive, to see the dawn. When the Carpathia's boats found me, I could not move. They had to lift me from the water like a dead man, had to carry me aboard, had to wrap me in blankets, and pour hot liquid down my throat. I do not remember any of this. I only remember waking in a warm cabin, surrounded by strangers who told me I was safe. My first thought was of Bridget. I asked everyone I could find, described her red hair and her Galway accent, begged for any news of her fate. For hours I heard nothing. I began to believe that she had not survived, that the boat I had pushed her into had capsized, that I had sent her to her death, and then I saw her. She was standing on the deck wrapped in a blanket, her red hair tangled and wild. Her mother stood beside her, holding her brother's hand. They were alive. All of them were alive. I called her name and she turned. For a moment she did not recognize me. I was pale and shaking, barely able to stand. And then her face changed and she was running toward me and I was holding her and we were both crying. "You promised," she said through her tears. "You promised you would meet me in New York." "I keep my promises," I said. We stood there for a long time, holding each other, not speaking. There were no words for what we had survived, no language adequate to express the gratitude and grief and overwhelming relief. We will reach New York tomorrow. Bridget's father will be waiting at the dock, not knowing if his family survived. My cousin will be searching the lists of survivors, hoping to find my name. We have lost everything, our possessions, our money, our innocence. But we have not lost each other, and in the end, that is all that matters. I will marry Bridget. I decided this somewhere in the dark hours of the night, floating in the freezing Atlantic, certain that I was going to die. If I survived, I told myself I would not waste another moment. I would tell her how I felt. I would build a life with her. I would honor the gift of survival by living fully and loving completely. America still waits. The dream is not dead. It is only changed, tempered by tragedy, made more precious by the knowledge of how easily it could have been lost. I am alive. Bridget is alive. And tomorrow, we begin again. From the newspapers of April 15 to February 16, 1912, New York Times. April 15, 1912. Titanic sinks 4 hours after hitting iceberg. 866 rescued by Carpathia, probably 1,250 perish. Is May safe? Mrs. Astor, maybe. Noted names missing. The news spread like wildfire across the globe. In New York, crowds gathered outside the White Star Line offices, desperate for information about loved ones. In London, the streets fell silent as the magnitude of the disaster became clear. In Southampton, where so many of the crew had lived, entire neighborhoods were plunged into mourning. The unsinkable ship had sunk, the impossible had happened, and the world would never be quite the same. The names came slowly at first, then in a flood. John Jacob Astor, the richest man aboard, lost. Benjamin Guggenheim, lost. Isidor and Ida Straus, lost together as they had lived together. Thomas Andrews, the ship's designer, lost with his creation. Captain Edward Smith, lost with his command. And hundreds more whose names would never make the headlines. The firemen and stewards, the cooks and maids, the emigrants in steerage who had risked everything for a chance at a new life. They were gone, all of them, swallowed by the cold Atlantic. Even as the world mourned, questions began to emerge. Why had the ship been traveling so fast through ice-filled waters? Why were there not enough lifeboats? Why had some boats been launched half empty while hundreds of people remained on deck? Investigations would follow. Hearings in both America and Britain would examine every aspect of the disaster, would assign blame and recommend changes, would try to make sense of the senseless. New regulations would be written. New safety standards would be implemented. The lessons of Titanic would reshape maritime law for generations to come. But none of that would bring back the dead. None of that would comfort the widows and orphans, the parents who had lost children, the children who had lost parents. None of that would fill the empty chairs at dinner tables across 2 continents. Memorial services were held in churches and cathedrals across the civilized world. In Southampton, where so many of the crew had called home, entire streets fell silent. Women dressed in black gathered at doorways, waiting for news that would never bring comfort. The White Star Line offices were besieged by desperate families seeking information about their loved ones. The inquiry began almost immediately. In both America and Britain, officials demanded answers. How could the unsinkable ship have sunk? Why were there not enough lifeboats? Who was responsible for the deaths of over 1,500 souls? Captain Stanley Lord of the Californian would face questions that would haunt him for the rest of his life. His ship had been nearby, close enough to see the distress rockets, yet he had not come. Whether through negligence or misunderstanding, his inaction became one of the great controversies of the disaster. Bruce Ismay, chairman of the White Star Line, had survived. He had climbed into a lifeboat while women and children still remained on the ship. The newspapers called him a coward. He would never escape the shadow of that night, living out his remaining years in seclusion, a broken man. The Marconi operators, Harold Bride and Jack Phillips, became heroes. Phillips had died staying at his post until the very end, sending distress calls into the darkness. bride, though injured, had survived and told the world of their desperate efforts to summon help. Among the artifacts recovered and the possessions that washed ashore in the weeks following the disaster, letters emerged. Some had been posted before the ship sailed. Others were found in pockets and bags of the recovered dead. Still others were written by survivors in the days after their rescue, trying to make sense of what they had witnessed. A letter from a steerage passenger to his mother in Ireland, posted in Queenstown. Dear Mother, I am writing to you from the grandest ship ever built. Tomorrow we sail for America, and I cannot believe my fortune. The ship is like a floating city. Even in third class we have more comfort than I have ever known. The food is plentiful, the beds are clean, and the other passengers are filled with the same hope that burns in my heart. I will find work in New York, and I will send for you and the little ones. This ship cannot sink, they say. It is a sign, Mother. Our luck has finally changed. I will write again when I reach America. Your loving son, Patrick. Patrick's body was never recovered. His mother received this letter 3 weeks after learning of his death. A note found in the pocket of a first-class gentleman. My darling wife, if you are reading this, then I did not survive. Know that my last thoughts were of you and the children. I have lived a good life, made better by your love. Do not mourn me too long. Raise our children to be kind and brave. Tell them their father loved them more than life itself. I go now to meet my Maker with a clear conscience and a grateful heart. Forever yours, William. A letter written by a survivor aboard the Carpathia. Dear sister, I am alive, but I wish I were not. The things I have seen cannot be unseen. The sounds I heard will echo in my ears until I die. I watched men jump from the ship and disappear into the black water. I heard the screams of those left behind as the ship went down. And then, worse than the screaming, came the silence. I am told I should be grateful. I am told I am lucky, but I feel only guilt. Why was I saved when so many others perished? I do not know if I will ever feel whole again. Please pray for me. Your sister, Margaret. Time passed, as it always does. The world moved on to other tragedies, other triumphs. The Great War came and went, claiming millions more lives. The Titanic became a memory, then a legend, then a myth. But for those who survived, the night of April 14th never truly ended. They carried it with them always, a weight that could not be set down. Eleanor Worthington, the young woman who had dreamed of love and adventure, returned to England. She never married. In her later years, she would sometimes speak of a young Irish boy she had met on the ship, a boy with dreams as big as her own. She wondered what had become of him. She never learned that Thomas Ryan had survived, that he had made it to America after all, that he had built the life he had dreamed of. Thomas Ryan settled in Boston. He worked on the docks at first, then saved enough to open a small shop. He married an Irish girl from his neighborhood, had 4 children, and lived a quiet, happy life, but he never forgot the ship. On the anniversary of the sinking, he would go to the harbor alone and stand watching the water until the sun went down. He never told his children why. The Straus family mourned Isidor and Ida, but they also celebrated them. Their love story became famous, a testament to devotion that transcended death. Macy's department store continued to thrive, a living memorial to the couple who had built it. Benjamin Guggenheim's mistress received his final letter. She kept it until her own death, never showing it to anyone. His wife and daughters learned of his bravery, how he had dressed in his finest clothes and declared that he would go down like a gentleman. Whether this brought them comfort or pain, history does not record. Captain Smith's body was never found. His wife and daughter were left with only memories and the knowledge that he had gone down with his ship, as captains were expected to do. Whether he had been negligent or simply unlucky, whether he could have done more to save his passengers, these questions would be debated for over a century. For 73 years, the Titanic lay hidden in the darkness of the Atlantic, 2.5 miles below the surface. Many searched for her. All failed. Some said she would never be found, that the ocean had claimed her forever. Then, in September of 1985, a joint American and French expedition located the wreck. The images that emerged stunned the world. There she was, broken in two, her bow section remarkably intact, her stern a twisted mass of metal. The grand staircase was gone, but the bronze cherub that had adorned it was found nearby. Shoes lay scattered on the ocean floor, marking the places where bodies had once rested before being consumed by the sea. The discovery reignited interest in the disaster. Artifacts were brought to the surface, exhibitions toured the world, a blockbuster film was made introducing the tragedy to a new generation. The Titanic became more famous in death than she had ever been in life. But with the fame came controversy. Should the wreck be disturbed? Was it a grave site that deserved to be left in peace? The descendants of those who died had strong opinions. Some wanted the artifacts preserved and displayed. Others felt it was a desecration. The debate continues to this day. The ship is deteriorating, slowly being consumed by iron-eating bacteria. Within a few decades, she may collapse entirely, leaving nothing but a rust stain on the ocean floor. The clock is ticking on the Titanic, just as it ticked on that cold April night so long ago. The sinking of the Titanic changed the world in ways both large and small. New regulations required ships to carry enough lifeboats for all passengers. The International Ice Patrol was established to monitor icebergs in the North Atlantic. Radio operators were required to maintain a 24-hour watch. But perhaps the most important lesson was one of humility. The Titanic had been called unsinkable, a triumph of human engineering over nature. Her loss proved that no ship, no machine, no creation of human hands is truly invincible. The sea does not care about our pride or our achievements. It is vast and cold and indifferent, and it will claim whatever it wishes. The passengers and crew of the Titanic were not so different from us. They had hopes and dreams, fears and flaws. They loved and were loved. They believed in a future that, for many of them, would never come. Their stories remind us that life is fragile, that tomorrow is never guaranteed, that the people we love should be cherished while we still have them. And so we come to the end of our journey through the letters and diaries of those who sailed on the Titanic. We have heard the voices of captains and coal stokers, millionaires and immigrants, lovers and dreamers. We have witnessed their hopes as the great ship set sail, and their despair as she slipped beneath the waves. What remains of them now? Faded photographs, yellowed letters, names carved in stone, and stories passed down through generations, keeping their memories alive. The fire crackles softly. The night grows late. Outside your window, the world continues its endless turning. But for a moment, we have stepped back in time to a night when the stars shone bright and cold over a calm Atlantic Sea, when a great ship met her fate, and when ordinary people faced extraordinary circumstances with courage, with fear, with love, and with grace. May their souls rest in peace. May their stories never be forgotten, and may we, the living, learn from their example to live each day as if it might be our last, to love without reservation, and to face whatever storms may come with dignity and hope. The Titanic is gone, but she will never truly sink. She lives on in our hearts, in our memories, in the lessons she taught us about the fragility of life and the endurance of the human spirit. Rest now. Let the warmth of the fire comfort you. Let the gentle crackling lull you towards sleep. And as you drift off, spare a thought for those who sailed on the ship of dreams, whose voices we have heard tonight, whose stories will echo through eternity. Good night. A century has passed since the Titanic sank. The last survivor, Milvina Dean, died in 2009 at the age of 97. She had been only 2 months old on the night of the disaster, too young to remember anything. Yet she carried the weight of that night her entire life, the youngest and the last link to a tragedy that had shaped the 20th century. With her passing, the Titanic moved fully from living memory into history. There is no one left who felt the ship shudder as she struck the iceberg. No one who heard the band playing as the water rose. No one who watched the stern rise against the stars before plunging into the deep. But the stories remain. The letters remain. The lessons remain. And on quiet nights when the fire burns low and the world falls silent, we can still hear their voices carried across the years like messages in bottles, reaching us from the darkness of the past. They speak of love and loss, of hope and despair, of courage in the face of death. They remind us that we are all passengers on this journey called life, sailing toward an unknown destination, never knowing when our voyage might end. Listen to them, remember them, honor them, and then rest. The fire is warm, the night is peaceful. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new joys, new sorrows. But for now, in this moment, all is well. Sleep now, dream of calm seas and safe harbors, and know that somewhere in the depths of the Atlantic, the Titanic keeps her eternal watch, a monument to human ambition and human frailty, forever frozen in time, forever remembered, forever at peace. Good night, dear listener, good night.